Debiasing strategies. In this section we've looked at 7 classic examples of cognitive bias: pareidolia, the power of suggestion, the anchoring effect, the gambler's fallacy, confirmation bias, the misinformation effect, and the Barnum effect. We have seen how our judgments, particularly those resulting from our fast thinking, can be skewed by these and other cognitive biases. In the preceding section on trusting appearance, we saw that it's reasonable to take appearance at face value, but not when we have some positive reason to doubt that things are as they appear to be. This section has given us reason to doubt that things are as they appear to be in certain situations. We've now seen that while something might appear to be a bargain, a face carved onto the surface of Mars, a good investment, a flying saucer, a memory of broken glass after an accident, or excellent marksmanship, all these appearances can be deceptive. We can easily be led astray by our cognitive biases. If there's good reason to think that a cognitive bias is affecting our judgment, then of course it's no longer reasonable to just take that appearance at face value. Businesses, medical professionals and other organisations are taking steps to ensure that their leadership teams and staff aren't led astray by cognitive biases. They're adopting debiasing strategies. But how do we neutralise the effects of cognitive biases on our judgment? Here are 6 debiasing strategies that you can employ. Number 1. Bias awareness. Just being aware of the existence of cognitive biases can help immunise you against their distorting influences. Those who know about biases and also have had some practice in actively identifying them are less prone to their effects. So you might want to try the quiz at the end of this section to practice identifying some examples of bias. That can only help. Number 2, employ a devil's advocate or red team. If everyone going into a business meeting has much the same view, the cognitive biases of the various individuals present can result in a badly skewed decision. In particular, confirmation bias can set in, with the team looking only at evidence that supports their existing consensus view, not what might count against it. Also, a team's initial judgment of the value of something might, as a result of the anchoring effect, distort their subsequent evaluations and lead them away from the truth. So one technique that organisations employ to combat these 2 biases in particular is to introduce a devil's advocate, someone who takes the alternative point of view and who forces the team to take that alternative seriously. In some organisations, a team is assigned to this task called the red team. Now, the red team's job is to poke holes, focus on the downsides, criticise and identify flaws. The most effective red teams, research reveals, are those that genuinely believe that the alternative point of view is correct, so they're not just going through the motions. Authentic dissent really stimulates people to think more actively and more creatively, and that makes them less prone to biased thinking. Number 3, hold an anonymous initial vote. In order to avoid the damaging consequences of, in particular, the anchoring effect, some organisations run an initial pre-meeting anonymous vote regarding value or what decision should be made. That way, when somebody suggests, say, an initial figure in the meeting, people are less likely to be dragged in the direction of that first heard figure. Number 4, create a pre-mortem. A variant of the devil's advocate approach is to have the decision makers consider what they would say down the line if the decision they make today turns out to be a disaster. Rather than have to conduct a post-mortem of a bad decision later, we create a pre-mortem now, anticipating what would have gone wrong. So questions to ask ourselves from the point of view of the pre-mortem are: what could have happened to cause the disaster, and what could be done today to prevent it? Creating a pre-mortem is a valuable debiasing technique that gets us to focus on the downsides to the decisions that we're making. And it's been adopted with great success by a number of companies. Number 5, think about how you will defend your judgment later on. A third related technique is to have everyone contributing to the decision-making process imagine that they will later have to justify their decision to others who are unsympathetic or are on the receiving end of their judgment. We're far less likely to just breeze through the decision-making process, making little effort to check that our prejudices are not getting the better of us, if we know that later on we're going to have to explain and defend our judgment to someone else, particularly if it's someone with a different point of view. 6, create a culture of critical thinking and psychological safety. One of the biggest obstacles to dealing effectively with the effects of cognitive bias is the fear that people feel about speaking up. A junior person may have spotted that a senior person has made an error, but they'll say nothing, feeling that their own status and perhaps their career prospects are potentially at risk. It's important that organisations foster a culture of what researchers now call psychological safety. Individuals should feel able to speak up, and they should feel that their contribution will be listened to. Professor Amy Edmondson of Harvard Business School begins her book The Fearless Organisation with a quote from Edmund Burke. "No passion so effectively robs the mind of all of its powers of acting and reasoning as fear." Charles Duhigg, reporting on a 5-year study at Google on what made the best teams, said the researchers concluded that psychological safety was far and away the most important factor of the 5 dynamics we found. It's also important to develop a culture of critical thinking, where leaders and leadership teams have good systems in place for making key decisions, systems that ensure that proper critical reflection always takes place and that the effects of biases on judgment are considered. These systems can, of course, involve employing devil's advocates, creating pre-mortems, and so on. We all suffer from cognitive biases. If we want to make good decisions and judgments, we need to ensure that robust critical thinking is built into our key decision-making processes, as an increasing number of organisations and businesses are beginning to discover.